Support for today's episode comes from Amazon. Amazon is working toward a carbon-free energy future, doing more with less, investing where it matters most, and supporting communities where we operate. Commercial batteries become grid assets, not backup. Port of Brisbane just added solar and battery storage to its cruise terminal, and the project is small enough to miss. What it's testing isn't small. Whether a commercial battery can do more than sit in reserve, and start acting as a piece of the grid itself. Port of Brisbane has expanded the Brisbane International Cruise Terminal's renewable energy system with 240 kilowatts of additional rooftop solar and a 1,145 kilowatt-hour battery, pushing the terminal's total on-site solar past 1 megawatt. The upgrade trims the terminal's electricity use, but the more interesting question is what happens once the battery is live. Commercial batteries like this one are increasingly asked to do double duty, supporting the grid as well as the building that hosts them. The battery was installed in partnership with Hydro Tasmania and received $168,396 toward the battery component through the Australian Renewable Energy Agency's Community Batteries Program, according to the port's own announcement. Rather than sitting idle as backup power, the system will test whether stored solar can shift into the terminal's highest demand hours, cutting its draw on the grid and squeezing more value from the power it generates. One of 39 batteries feeding a larger virtual power plant. The Brisbane terminal's battery is one of 39 installations. Hydro Tasmania is rolling out across Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia through its retail arm, Environment+Energy. ARENA has committed more than $7.7 million to the build, against a total project cost of roughly $22 million. Every battery is folded into Hydro Tasmania's virtual power plant, which can trade the stored electricity into the national electricity market's wholesale and frequency control markets. Two of the same systems already sit at a Brisbane Sporting Club's training facility, cutting peak demand there by half during televised games. For the port, that structure means the battery could do two jobs at once: lower the port's own electricity bill and add a coordinated piece to a network of batteries that grid operators can call on when conditions tighten. Plenty of smaller utilities are still working out how to build the dispatch systems these programs depend on, even as the hardware itself becomes routine. 150 cruise calls a year. Create a timing problem. Solar alone can't fix. The terminal handles roughly 150 cruise ship calls a year, and each one brings a sharp jump in electricity use that has little to do with when the rooftop panels are generating the most power. Passenger processing, baggage handling, and terminal operations spike well outside peak sunlight hours. Storing daytime solar and releasing it during those spikes lets the terminal lean less on the grid when demand, and often price, runs highest. It's a modest trial, and PBPL frames it that way. The goal is to learn whether battery storage can become routine before the port considers similar builds elsewhere across its industrial estate. The project also tracks a broader shift in how ports and industrial operators spend on energy. Early investment mostly went toward rooftop solar. Pairing that generation with storage so a facility can use the power it makes instead of exporting the surplus for a modest credit is now the more common next step, echoed in newly financed solar and storage builds elsewhere in the region that bundle generation and storage into a single asset. Port of Brisbane says it reached net zero Scope 1 and 2 emissions with offsets in fiscal year 2024 and has held that status while adding on-site renewable capacity under its Vision 2060 strategy. Virtual power plants are getting bigger and more tightly coordinated, and facility uptime is becoming as central to site planning as the grid connection itself. Projects like this one suggest these investments will be judged not only by how much clean power they generate, but by how well they help the grid absorb demand it can't always meet alone. Sustainability Soundbites energy coverage is sponsored by Amazon. Visit the link in our show notes to learn more about Amazon's Spotlight on Energy. For sponsorship opportunities with Environment and Energy Leader, please reach out to a member of our team.